generous thing. Anybody that knows me, I ended up, that's a song that's been stuck in my head for many years. And was that part of Peter, Paul, and Mary, or do you remember? Oh, it is. Okay, maybe that's probably why. So it might show a little bit about my age too, although I might be about maybe a little bit younger than some of you people here. But I was going to start with, I ended up, I don't remember what was on the real full agenda, but I wanted to start with talking about actually who I am as an individual, as Mark Kremen is legally my name. I was taken away when I was 5 years old during the assimilation era. And during the assimilation era was when the area of the United States was wanting to know what to deal with what they were always calling the Indian problem, and it ended up the acquisition of taking land from us Native American people, and instead of trying to kill all of us off like they did in the Midwest and in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, they were pushing all the Indians westward, and it ended up many of them had, of course, perished, but it ended up once they got to the Puget Sound, Salish Sea area, ended up because we were part of many different tribes of the Puget Sound area. We as Native people, each of our rivers in our Washington state could sustain and hold and make a tribe survive under one river. And one river, as you see in the Washington state, many of our rivers are named after the tribes in its circumference. And I am from Skokomish, and Skokomish, we're over by the Shelton, the end of Hood Canal area, and it ended up when more of the white people came over to the Shelton area, and a lot of the logging was the main industry in Washington, and for us, my family, I actually had to look it up, and some of you got to see my folder here that it ended up. There were 10 of us in my family, and I was the middle child of the 10 of us. And they took the 9 of us children and put us into white families. And I went to a foster home in Shelton when I lived on my Skokomish over by my tribe. And it ended up, the only thing I found it was for me to survive mentally and physically and survive was that I had an older brother, Claude, who was taken during the same time I was taken. And Claude and I got to stay together in 2 foster homes before being adopted out by the Kremen family. And people have asked me if how I liked it, and I stood there and I said, well, I was only 5 years old. I didn't know how well I liked it until I was 6 and 7 years old and starting to go to white schools. And it ended up, then I realized that I was, we call us Native American. For me, as a individual, I call myself a Indian. But as being the only two Native American children in a grade school was a hard time, and also through high school. The one thing that survived us, both Claude and I, through high school and continuing through junior high and high school, was that both Claude and I were very sport-minded, and ended up, we were probably the best in both football and both in wrestling, and I was good in track, and Claude was good in cross country. So I ended up, for us to be able to go through high school, we were doing really well. We went to the Mount Baker High School up by Deming, up by Bellingham. If people know Bellingham, 20 miles out of Bellingham is Deming, and we were the closest high school to the Mount Baker. And we were back then we called ourselves a single A high school. I don't know, the single A, double A, and triple A now. And I understood some of the Eastern Washington schools were B League or B high school, but it ended up our school was about 500, about 300 students from 7th grade through 12th grade, and it ended up was a small high school like that. It ended up almost everybody knew everybody, you know, with a school about that size. So it ended up, Claude and I did receive that racism of being Indian, and ended up, Claude would fight with other high school students, and I would just go and cry and find myself a place that nobody could see me. But ended up, one of the things that really was strong was that I did have my brother with me. So that was a real strength for me to have my brother a year older than I. That was one that helped actually take care of me too. So it ended up, that was a real transition that had to go on with my life of growing up and being part of society, I guess would be a better way to put it. Because I was taken with at the age of 5, I did know I had brothers and sisters, and I did know I had my father, even though he was an acute alcoholic. I very seldom seen him, but it ended up my mother I was able to always see most of the time. But it ended up both my mother and my father and my uncles and my aunts were back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. Alcoholism was very prevalent within all of us Native American people, and it ended up because I didn't see my father very often, and my mother also being a alcoholic periodically, one of the things that the government had found us and realized that we were living in a one-room house in our Skokomish reservation. Ended up, they realized that we weren't taken care of very well, so it ended up when we were taken. I did not reacquaint myself with my brothers and sisters until I was 18. And when I was 18, I went to Grace Harvard Community College, and my brother went to Eastern Washington State College when he graduated a year older than I. When for us to be able to go on to college, my adopted parents were able to go through the Bureau of Indian Affairs and be able to get the BIA money of us Native American people to go on to college. And it ended up, one of the things that happened in for me as I look back at it was that my mother and my father had to go through the records of my history and realized that through the BIA they were able to established that I was a Skokomish Native American, and through their records I was 7H Native American and 1/8 Polynesian, and I don't know how I got that, but they think maybe on somewhere on my father's side way back was Polynesian, but I was able to, as I look back on my history, and if I think about other things I was able to do was ended up when I was able to re-meet my mother, which was a very traumatic experience also, was re-meeting my mother again for the first time after being taken away when I was 5. But she recognized me right away, and it ended up, the thing I was going to start going to was that part of my history of my family is that my mother and my family brothers and sisters have died of Huntington's disease, and it's similar to a Parkinson's, and it ended up from a Dr. Bird in University of Washington back in the 1970s, 72. We were able to get 5 generations back of my family, and know that it ended up, it went from my mother, my grandmothers to my grandmothers to my mother, and my mother was the transition of Huntington's to me and my brothers and sisters that had died of it, and it ended up from oral history is that we feel that one of my grandmothers was raped by a non-Indian and transmitted Huntington's disease to our native family, and that's how I got it. My family got it, and when back in maybe 74, when I was almost done with college and wanting to get married at that time, I ended up was deciding on whether I wanted to start a family or not, and I looked at my records of Huntington's disease, and they told me I'm a carrier of Huntington's, but I wasn't supposed to get it. I had less than whatever 1/8 of a chance of getting it, so whatever that means, well, that part is. But ended up, I decided not to have a family when I had a woman friend of mine in college, and we grew up together, and it ended up, I decided not to have a family because I saw many of my family members die of that. So, and when I met my mother back in 1972, when I was going to Grace Harbor Community College, I would go visit her over in Shelton, Washington. And back then, there was another nursing home similar to Furlane's. If people know the nursing home, there's a Furlane's in Shelton, Washington. It's interesting that it ended up when I went from a walker to a wheelchair. I lived in Furlane's for almost 2 years. Well, actually, I think 2 years or 3 years before I came to Olympia, and being in going from a walker to a wheelchair. My demise ended up, when I kind of retired, I went back to my Skokomish, and it ended up, I asked my tribe, I lived with my sister for about 1 year, and it ended up, I asked my tribe, how come they did not do the community garden out of Skokomish that they used to have. And my uncle Joe, we always called him only Uncle Joe, and he used to do a community garden for our tribe. And after he passed away, and I went back to the tribe, I asked them how come they didn't do the community garden anymore, and they said, well, nobody stepped up to do it. And I asked them, well, can I do it? And they said, well, yeah, go ahead, try it, you know. And I ended up having to down a lot of, we call them sucker alder trees where the field used to be. And I lopped those off, and then I had to do a dig out of the roots of the sucker trees, and then I was able to start the community garden for our Skokomish. And I started out with 300 corn and about, I think it was two 30-foot string beans, and then I went to squash later on, and then I was watching my garden, and it ended up I was watching how the sun came over into my garden area, and it ended up I stood there and I decided to make about would have been about maybe 40 yards of alder trees that I downed by hand, and I cut them down. And then I was climbing over alder trees and limbing the trees before I was going to start hauling the trees out. And I thought I sprained my knee, and it ended up when I was climbing over trees and trying to pull limbs into a pile, and it ended up I thought I had sprained my left knee, and I found out I was walking on it for 2 weeks, or maybe 3 weeks, and then I found out that they told me I had a dislocated knee, and I had been walking on it for 3 weeks or more, and that was what put me down into I had to have a knee replacement, and after my knee replacement, it ended up at Furlane's, and I guess they call it the rehab. Ended up I wasn't getting the right enough care to get my leg strong again. And I ended up, I went from a walker to a wheelchair, and it ended up, once I moved over here to Puget Sound Healthcare Center, where I'm living now, I ended up, I've gotten, received the more of the physical therapy, and I've been able to do a lot of leg movement. Before I wasn't able to move my knee very much, and it ended up I've been able to get actually a walking ability too, and it ended up. So that's a little bit about me, and it ended up. I can go to a number of things. One of the things I will say about my history of my work as a working with, I guess what better way to say it would be Indian, non-Indian relations. And when I graduated from Grace Harbor Community College and went up to University of Washington, I originally was wanting to get a fisheries forestry management degree and be able to go back to my tribe and help my tribe in working with forestry and fisheries management. But when I went up to University of Washington and started my third year of college up at University of Washington, I started flunking out. So the science degrees were too tough for me. So I went into School of Social Work, and I graduated in 1974 in School of Social Work. Got my MSW in 1977 in the School of Social Work before they built the new social work building at the University of Washington. But getting back to what I was originally talk about is that at University of Washington, there was a man named John Magnuson, and John Magnuson and Campus Christian Ministry at University of Washington. John Magnuson was also both a Lutheran, but also a advocate for Native American rights, and really strong on Native American rights. And if you know some of the history of John Magnuson, or the Lutheran and the church people, we also were the ones that were the anti-trident group that were really, I was on the peacekeeper boat that went out to try to intercept the first trident submarine that was going in Strait of Juan de Fuca out, and it ended up, they of course arrested us, and they ended up, but that's a whole long story too. But through John Nelson and Campus Christian Ministry and the Lutheran Church of America, LCA, when I was going to University of Washington, University Lutheran Church in 1974, was that they had started a Native American ministry, Native American Lutheran ministry, and it ended up, we started out with only about maybe 5 of us in the Seattle area that met down at Gethsemane Lutheran Church, downtown Seattle. And 5 of us met together once a month, and one of the first things we thought of was working with our homeless Native American people, and it ended up, which was also a large number work with, and it ended up eventually under the LCA. They were made I guess would have been like a committee, and be recognized committee that the church and the Senate would recognize us as a working committee that they could support, and then that's how Native American Lutheran Ministry that I was from the ground up I was part of, and it ended up so in a sense about 1974 who the merger between the LCA and the ELCA. I've been part of Native American Ministry since 1974 and on, and we have done both many things, but I think the strongest part of me as a individual that I've had my leg in as the public declaration of apology in 1987, in which the churches apologized to Native American people in the Northwest of apologizing for not standing up for the rights and the ability of doing our traditional ways of our Native American ways of religion and our Native American objects. Many times when the white people came over, they were taking away a lot of our Native American objects that were our traditional ways of doing our Native American religion. We used to do rattles, and we had drums, and we had many people know sweetgrass and sage, and we, for me as an individual, the cedar tree is the strength of many of our Northwest Native American people, because the cedar tree, everything of the cedar tree can be used for us as Native American people. Our canoes, our houses, and our ability of getting our waterways and getting our fishing done was done by canoes, and it ended up the cedar hat that I was wearing ended up our cedar was also used for blankets, and the inner bark of the cedar tree can be made as a twine and rope, and it ended up, if you get the real best part of the cedar bark of a cedar tree that my elders taught me was the cedar root bark of the roots of the cedar tree. And if you peel the bark off the roots of the cedar tree and the inner bark, and you make it into like a less than maybe 1/16 of an inch thick, and make it about anywhere from 4 feet to 16 feet long, and intertwine it in a 3-way weave. You have a strong rope that would be similar to like a rope that you would have to pull a car with. It's that strong. So it ended up one of the parts of my background of regaining my Native American identity was not only knowing my ability of doing the work that a cedar tree can do, the harvesting of the berries that are picked in here in the Northwest, know which berries are the right berries to eat and which berries are the wrong berries to eat. So, you know, you have to know these things. And we in Western Washington tribes, we used to do bartering with Eastern Washington tribes, and it ended up, that's why Skokomish Tribe was a very strong tribe, because the only way to get over to the Eastern Washington tribe was going through the Skokomish Pass. And it ended up, that's how the Skokomish Tribe was very strong. But it ended up, many of the things that Western Washington tribes of our fish and our shellfish and our berries of the Northwest, and deer and venison ended up, and then Eastern Washington tribes had more of the squash that we did not have, and it ended up many of our bartering was done through Eastern Washington and Western Washington tribes. If I go back to the public declaration of apology, and that signing of the apology was a way of the I would say the non-Indian people gathering together and saying that they had done wrong. And it ended up, one of the things with them saying that they did something wrong was a real step of us as Native American people wanting to be able to like non-Native American people then. Now going from there, I want to go to a point that I've been part of, and there's actually two different points. One was the canoe journeys. I saw this woman here on the paddles, and my first paddle was the paddle to Seattle, and that was the first paddle that was done. And I was on a small 10-foot canoe, and we were the third to last canoe to come into Alki Beach in 1987 or 88, I think it was. It was the 200th anniversary of Washington State, and whatever year that was, I can't think of it right now offhand. But it ended up, the canoe journeys is one that is our Native American gatherings. But it ended up, one of the things that with our Native and non-Native people that I've been a real traveler with is the protection of sacred sites and burial grounds of the burial places of our Native people. And it ended up, let's see, I'm trying to remember which ones the Madrona Point on the for our Lummi people, there was a burial site on Orcas Island that our Lummi tribes used to bury their people. And after the apology, one of our Lummi people, I think it was Jewel James, came up to us and said, okay, you apologize to us, and well, we're going to start taking you to the Word, and are you going to back us up and help us reclaim our burial sites and our sacred sites? And the initial real strong thing that was able to be done was the churches through the Church Council of Greater Seattle and the Lutheran Church was a very stronghold also. But we worked at reclaiming Madrona Point, that was the burial site of our Lummi Nation people. And what it eventually had to happen was that we went through the federal legislature and was able to, through the Department of Interior, gain a way of rebuying a burial site for our Lummi people. And that was a first and one of our foremost strongholds of standing there saying that maybe this public declaration of apology is really working. And it ended up the other several parts of our program that I've been part of is our recognition of tribes. There are tribes that were still unrecognized, and one of them was our Skokomish people. And our Skokomish tribe has been worked at recognition, and they were going to be recognized, but then through our federal, through the presidency of the United States, they had a change of a new president, and through that change of a new president, it sort of got lost. And they ended up, they had to work at reclaiming and starting almost all over, and working at getting their recognition. And ended up, and it's a long haul of trying to stand and say, I know who I am. Don't you recognize me? Like saying, I'm not Skokomish. So we worked with that tribe and helped them with their recognition, and also a point that's really in the that actually is one that has been reclaimed, is the Skokomish Falls, is the sacred site of both not only our Skokomish people, but a lot of our Western Washington people, of our tribal people, went up to the bottom and the top of the falls and did our tribal ceremonies and prayed to our Creator as our altar, as our Native American people. And Skokomish Falls has been reclaimed by our Skokomish people also. When the Skokomish tribe was able to get recognized, and through all their abilities that they've been able to go through, they actually own the Skokomish Lodge, and that means that they own the top and both sides of the Skokomish Falls. They don't own that damn thing above it, but they at least have a recognition of the area of where the altar of our Native American people have been to do our ceremony as our way of talking to the Creator in our Native American way. I am going back and thinking of not only their tradition, and of my individual tradition. We are called the Smokehouse Longhouse people, And the Smokehouse Long people is the tradition of many of our Western Washington tribes. And we would make big, actually, big lodges that were anywhere from 180 feet to about maybe 240 feet long, and about anywhere from 60 to 80 feet wide. And it ended up there, that would make it where everybody could be in the lodge all at one time. And even though it was a long area, it ended up the area would hold, we would put 3 fires in the middle, and we would do our song and our dances. And it ended up our song and our dances was our way of talking to our Creator. And it ended up in our Smokehouse people, we were the red-faced people, or the black-faced people, and the red-faced people were our people that had had the ability to do visionary and have visions. And our black-faced people were what we would call worker people, the workers of the Smokehouse, Longhouse, and they would help make sure that the fires kept going, that there was enough logs to make the fire keep going, and make sure that meals were available for meals when there was time for having a meal, and everything was done in one long house at one time. In looking back at my history, I learned the Smokehouse Longhouse tradition through Bruce Miller, who is my cousin. And Bruce Miller was taught by Joe Washington, and Joe Washington was the leader of the Smokehouse Longhouse of up in the Lummi, from the Lummi people, and that would be for me would be Bruce and me and Joe Washington. That would be two generations back that were transpired. One generation would teach the next generation our traditional way of life. Now there's a number of places I can go from there, because I ended up, one of the things that I have the ability, and I think I'm going to go through 2 different roads, and one of them I know Bob here will know that one. One of the things that I've been able to do in the many years that I've been transpired into is that I was able to help both gather and help rebuild the longhouse up at the Skokomish reservation up by LaConner, and the smokehouse up there has been a real stronghold for the people up north of Seattle, and their longhouse is very well respected up there. And the other tradition, let's see, it's going back, and you might be able to help me with. I don't know if you know it, Bob, or not, but I helped rebuild a St. Paul's Catholic Church up at on the Skokomish reservation. They decided, they worked at building a larger structure where they could do more programs up at the St. Paul's Lutheran Church, and I helped build the walls up at the St. Paul's Catholic Church up there. A very good dear friend of mine named Father Pat Toohey is one that I've known really well through the years. The other man that I think of I've been part of is John Magnuson of up at university, and he was the campus pastor after John Nelson, and I ended up I taught at University of Washington for 11 years in doing what we call contemporary Native American studies. And my contemporary Native American studies is that we wanted to help tell students of who we are as Native American people of today. And it ended up many of our Native American studies that were going on prior to 1970 was always about the history of our Native American people and Native American people that you know, many of us got slaughtered off, and how they were able to retake over the whole United States. Now, as I think of that part of the, I got those two little roads in whatever the 200th year anniversary of United States, they were going to do a very grandiose celebration of the 200th anniversary of the United States. And finally they decided, oh, we better ask the Native American people what we thought of the 200th anniversary of the United States. And the biggest group that they could find was the LCA, Native American Lutheran Ministry, which I'm part of. Well, back then, the LCA, Lutheran Church of America. And ended up, I went to a meeting in Sheridan, Wyoming, and there were 60 of us, Native American, and about 4 or 5 white people, non-Indian, I guess, maybe another way. But anyway, the 60 of us, and we were trying to figure out how we wanted to respond. And it was a 2-day meeting in Sheridan, Wyoming, and we tried to come up with a 5-page letter that we were going to be able to read, and about 2 and 3 pages of the letter was dramatic, because I ended up, we were so mad of them trying to ask us, you know, what did we think? And we had a lot of angry words that we wanted to say, but we tried to smooth those words out, you know. But it ended up, one of the things that we can come to now is that one of you mentioned there was no discovery of America. We were already here. And it ended up, the doctrine of discovery had to be, and I think it was if I'm thinking of my history of my ELCA now, is in 2016, National Assembly of the Lutheran Church repudiated the doctrine of discovery in the LCA National Assembly and got passed by over 98% of the voting members of the National Assembly voted to repudiate the doctrine of discovery because they didn't discover anything. There were people already here in America before, at first he landed somewhere over in Haiti or somewhere, I think first, that guy named Columbus. So, now I'm not sure how many different avenues I can go from there. One of the things that has been a real I guess something that we have been able to, as Native American people, is that our Native American people in a sense Native American church relations is that there has been and there are a number of our Native American people that are clergy and are pastors and leaders in other denominations, and they ended up we have a number of people in our Native American people that have been teachers at your Lutheran colleges. Somebody mentioned Augustana. Was that the one you mentioned? Somebody mentioned Augustana, or maybe somebody I was talking to. I talked to a number of people, and they're one of your Lutheran colleges is Augustana Lutheran, and there's another one over by Chicago, and I think we have another a professor at a Lutheran college in Chicago, and it ended up for me one of the things that I wanted to stress when I taught at University of Washington was that there are Native American people that are alive and we are well, and we have done many things that are making the land here still be here. One of the things that I wrote and was published in, I would have to go look for it if I can find it. This was published in 1990, May 22nd, in the Seattle Times, and I wrote this. For over 200 years, we Native Americans have had a way of life of preservation, respect for the land and animals alike. Our religious beliefs and our ceremonies gave respect to the animals, the salmon, the buffalo, the trees, and the berries. Mother Earth had given this to the Native Americans throughout the Americas. We had respect for this because it meant our survival. Preservation enabled us to go on for years to come. But this all changed 200 years ago. A new culture and peoples arrived. New ideas with unknown visions. Trees were toppled like sticks. Plants were used up. Animals were driven out and consumed. Many became extinct. even to the extent that many Native Americans do not exist. For the idea of progress, our motherland across the U.S. is eroding away. Will Mother Earth not exist eventually? Setting aside one day, Earth Day, is not enough time to pay respect to her. How absurd. Every day should be used to celebrate and respect Mother Earth. With tender, loving care, each of us should take time every day and assess our real time here. I am surprised Earth hasn't asked for an Alka-Seltzer, a bottle of aspirin, and a warm bed, and wants to sleep us off.
That's prescient.
So one of the things that I have when I started coming down to it was that it ended up like I was saying before, was that it ended up my ability of teaching at the University of Washington was talking about that we as Native Americans and non-Native Americans, we can actually coexist if we gather together and make the right decisions about the things that we do within the area that we are being part of. And it ended up the work that I've done with both my longtime term was Church Council of Greater Seattle, but the last 3 years or 3 years maybe, this fall would be beginning of my 4th year of being part of Interfaith Works, and part of Interfaith Works is one that has worked at doing things with our both our Native people and non-Native people, and with that I ended up, I have been able to start working at coexisting with other different, I guess better way to put it, committees that I've been on, because if I look at and somebody want to help me do the math from about 1974, that would be what, 36 and 36 and 24, what is that, almost 60 years of doing committee. So I don't know which committee I've been. For me as a committee person, my committee has drawn me all the way, and I've been all over the country. That's probably the one or the other things that I could probably mention as me as a worker is through more with the Lutheran Church, is that I have been in 27 states in 3 years, going over the country, all over the country, and working with different parts of United States and Lutheran Church and Native American relations. And three times I was part of the National Assembly of the Lutheran Church, 2 times through the Northwest Washington Senate, and 1 time through our Southwest Washington Senate, and going to the National Assembly, and ended up, I'm trying to remember if I remember seeing it right, that the church here at Gloria Day is also a reconciling church, am I right?
Not yet.
Not yet?
In process.
They're in the process? That it ended up, one of the things that they that I had worked with on the national level is working with being our reconciling church, and also in the national level was the clergy having same-sex relationships and still being a clergy. And that program of being at the national level, if you're dealing with over 300 people and trying to make a decision, it ended up that's a really tough road to being able to try to work with. I don't know if anybody of you or have members that have gone to a National Assembly. Anybody gone to a National Assembly in Lutheran? But ended up there. I was a delegate, and they ended up one of the things that we were debating was that ability of having Lutheran clergy and having same-sex relationships, and it ended up. I was at a microphone like I am here, and it ended up there were only 2 people in front of me, but at a next aisle about gosh, what would have been about 60 feet away from me was a whole line of people going up to the mic, going against being able to have same-sex relationships, and it ended up we were working with a tough road on that, and it ended up and as I look back at another thing that I've been part of, and I'm not sure if you were over there, Bob, when I was over at the one what the main church in Spokane. I went to one of your regional meetings of the Takawitha conference.
That's at Gonzaga University.
Yeah, well, I forgot the name of the university, but I went to a couple of our Catholic Takawitha conferences, and another good friend of mine, gosh, I can't think of her name right now. She's part of the Tacoma Center.
Joanne?
Oh, Joanne Staples' mom is a good friend of mine that I've known for maybe over 40, 50 years now, maybe 2. And it ended up part of the thing that she has been part of is getting a national Takawitha conference here in the Northwest. But the other thing that both Joanne and I had been part of up in Seattle was that I helped revitalize and make a strong Native American drop-in center, Chief Seattle Club in Seattle, and it ended up I helped revitalize that with a Sister Julie Codd of I don't know what her order is.
Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace.
St. Joseph of Peace.
Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace in Seattle.
In Seattle, and it ended up Sister Julie had known me through the Church Council of Greater Seattle, but it ended up I became one of their first cooks of cooking for our Native American people of downtown Seattle, and it ended up I started out with a small 2-burner. Anybody seen those little 2-burner electric burner stoves or hot plates? And I ended up I was trying to feed 30 people with that, and it ended up I was trying to be really inventive of doing that. And, the reason I bring that up is that for me to graduate from college is that I worked in restaurants for 7 years and going to college, and I worked in I don't know if I can count them all, but at least 5 major restaurants I've been part of in Seattle. And before I left Seattle, I was the chef of Fisherman's Restaurant in two piers away from the ferry terminal in downtown Seattle, and ours was a seafood restaurant, and we served salmon, cod, halibut, and shellfish, and clams, king salmon legs, and what we called fisherman's chowder, which would be more of a red chowder. And I sort of kind of helped devise that. And through the 7 years of working in restaurants, I worked my way up at being the chef in the restaurant. And then when I left Seattle, ended up, I think I was the cook of Chief Seattle Club for almost 5 years or more, I think. And it ended up, I went from cooking for about 30 average Native people in the downtown area of Seattle to, I think we were over 200 people coming in per day to Chief Seattle Club for coming in the morning for a main meal and a lunch to go. And it ended up our Chief Seattle Club went from a small room about 1/3 of the size of this room here, about that size that I cooked at, to I think we were about 2.5 floors of Chief Seattle Club that it is now, and we're helping about 200 to 250 Native American people in Seattle, and we have both a eating area, a lounge area, a area for people. Now, even though I had to learn it too, maybe you guys, a number of you had to learn it too, but it ended up I had to grow up and learn computer too, and I started as a baby and learning how to do computer, because even before I finished being part of University of Washington and grading papers, I ended up having to learn how to punch in their whether I gave them a 3.7 or a 2.2 or a 1.7. I actually had to flunk one person 3 quarters in a row when I was at the University of Washington. This is the story that was really hard for me to do, is stand there and say to a young lady that ended up, she was not able to pass the course 3 quarters in a row, and it ended up I worked at trying to explain to her it's better for you to not take the class again, because I hate to plug on somebody. Another part of my life that's interesting, because now that I went back to that, was that when I was a chef in a restaurant, the other thing was I had to learn how to fire a person. When I was a leader of something, I had to learn how to fire a person. And one of my cooks I had hired, he looked really good on paper. He had good on what we call the resume now. His resume, he ended up had 2 of his 3 restaurants he had worked at were well-recognized restaurants. So I thought he was a good cook to hire. But one Friday evening, he ended up getting over 17 tickets on his line, and he became flustered. And it ended up, when I got out there, there were 27 tickets on the line. And it ended up, I went through all the tickets, and I looked for all the things that could go in the oven. And I started, labeling them off one by one, and then looked at all the things on the ticket that had to be sauteed, and I started lining those all up. And then all the tickets that all the things on the meal that had to be prepared and put up on the line, that were our shellfish, either our oysters, our Dungeness crab and snow crab, dinner. I lined all those up, and I said, okay, I counted all the shellfish items that had to be made. And then I just grabbed 3 big sheet pans and put everything that had to go in the oven. And 27 tickets I put out in 15 minutes. And I had this guy that I had to fire. I just told him to go back into my office and sit there and stay there. And after I closed the restaurant, I had to go back to my office and stand there and say, you just can't cut it, man. But we can't have you here.
It sounds like you were.
That was a hard, something that was a hard choice to make, but it showed that he couldn't do it.
Mark, thank you so much for sharing so much. There may be questions that people have.
Okay. Well, the one thing that I don't know if I talked with somebody earlier. Oh, I think I talked to somebody outside. The other part that I've been part of, and you may know it also, is that I've been part of Holden Village for over 30 years, and I think I went up there almost 35 years in a row. So yeah, if there's questions that people have, and comments that people want to make.
He goes over there too,
Yeah, here's one.
I'm not familiar with the Lutheran Church of America, and so I'm interested in that 1987
Declaration of Apology.
Yes, and was that at the national level, or was that here in the state
That
of
was.
Washington?
You're part of ELCA now, Lutheran Church at all?
I'm not part of this church, so.
Are you part of a church community?
Not a Lutheran church.
Okay. Well, I ended up here in the Northwest. Let's see how far back do I want to go. Okay, let's see if I can go back this far. Let me start with this. The way the apology actually started to evolve was one of about 2 and 3 different things. Was both our sacred areas and our sacred objects and our fishing rights, the rights of our Native American people to fish in our usual and accustomed places. And it ended up, the one thing that I wanted to go start with would be the decision that was, now we call it the Bolt decision that was made by what do you call him,
District judge.
a judge. And it ended up, he ended up deciding, and he looked at the papers that were done for our Native American rights, and it ended up, he looked at part of our that paper that was signed by our Native and non-Native people, and it ended up, it had the words, the usual and accustomed places that we were allowed to, be at the usual and accustomed places. And he decided that meant 50% of harvestable fish can be fished by Native American people only, and that meant only 50% of the other part of harvestable fish can be fished and taken by sport fishermen and commercial fishermen that were non-native. And it ended up through that they made it a very volatile time with our working with our Native and non-Native people, and it ended up our sport fishermen that were non-Native were the angriest, that were against that they're giving up 50% of their harvestable fish. And that what happened was that a number of these non-Native American people, sport fishermen, were so angry that they shot guns at over us and us Native American people when we were fishing in our area. And it ended up, we realized that it was getting that dangerous that we were being shot at. So it ended up, we went up to the council of churches, and we stood there and said, we're going to need help of trying to eradicate this trouble that's going on, because we got to a point of saying, I said this outside your door here to one of your friends, the member here, that ended up, if they start shooting at us and just shooting over our head, we're going to come back and start shooting at you, and we're not going to miss. We're not going to miss. So it got to that point. So it ended up, what happened was that there has been a number of our clergy got together and started saying, we are going to have to work at eradicating a church, church and non-native, church and native people. And how can we be able to do something that we can help right the wrong that we have done as white people? Well, I could say it as white people, that the white people have done to Native American people. And it ended up, it took 2 years of trying to write an apology, and I was part of that. I was at St. Mark's in Seattle, the big church on Capitol Hill, and it ended up, we had anywhere from 4 to 7, 8, 9 bishops from the different denominations sitting at a 30-foot table, and it ended up there were 7 to 9 bishops, and 2 with them there would be one advisor, and there were about 4 and 3 of us Native American people sitting with them and trying to iron out an apology. And I don't know if you've worked with well, you might have worked with your individual church as trying to make some kind of document within your individual church, and how many people would gather together and be on the same page. And it ended up 7 and 9 bishops, and they could not get along. Only 3 and 4 bishops could get along with the 7 of them and 9 of them. And it ended up finally, after almost 2 years of my working with that document, ended up there was one denomination that would not sign. She was not wanting to sign. She was standing there saying, why should I apologize to something that she was not part of, that she as a white person said she didn't do. She did not do anything. But we had the Catholic bishop, the LCA bishop, Dick Knudsen, and trying to think of his name now, the ALC bishop of the Lutheran Church, and the Methodist bishop take her aside and told her, and it's better for her to sign than not sign. If she did not sign, it meant she did not recognize Native American people.
Doug, if it's helpful, I sent a copy of the 2016 and 2021 document to you. I just emailed it to you, and if you wanted to share it with everybody. It's the document that we're talking about. I think
The Public Declaration of Apology,
But it's a
1987 it was passed.
There's a 1997.
And then it was just updated in 2021, so it's something that if anyone's interested, Doug can share, or I'm happy to share it with you.
And it's with the collaboration of all the different.
It took all the bishops to collaborate and stand there, and I don't know if you've had to deal with documents or not, but I was sitting in with that apology, and they were deciding whether to take the word "and" in the part of a sentence or not. And I said, well, wouldn't it be better to just put a comma? Just put a comma there, and forget about the word "and." You don't need the word "and" in everything. Anybody made documents before?
There's a whole bunch of legal jargon where the "and" or a comma. Yes.
I did something late at night. I have the book entitled, I've had it in my library, and periodically I read it. It's Treatise on Trial, written by a Nova Scotian woman in conjunction with the American Friends Service Committee.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think, how could I come to this incredibly fruitful experience that you have given us, Mark, without making a comparison. And what I did is I took the children and the boat decision and the fish, and what I did is I ran a comparison. The children were the vehicle for assimilation. They had no rights. The government wrote everything. They were behind cover. No one could see what happened to them. It was a philosophy of get rid of whatever it was. And what was interesting to me, it was this whole matter of the annihilation, the desire to get rid of something that people can't understand. And then the bolt decision. I thought to myself, how many millions of dollars? There was so much information in that book that had to do with the amount of time, energy, and money that was spent to satisfy the dollars and also the pleasure of the sport fishermen. And I would like you, if you would, in maybe a sentence or two, if you can do this, to take your greatest takeaway from the time you were 5 until now, in terms of you being a Native American and what that really meant to you.
Three sentences?
How many of you people can stay here another hour?
One of the things I probably, one of the things I'm thinking of right offhand is that I have been able to come full circle. One of the things that happened when I was 5, I have been able to come to actually know who I am. I ended up at 5. They were trying to take away who I was, but they did not do it. I was able to come full circle and become who I am.
I would like to say something about a woman who many people have read, Braiding Seagrass. And this is Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she talks about, I love the book because it's in short chapters. And what she talks about is gift. Okay, and there are gifts that you can buy. And you say, oh, this costs $5 or whatever. But she talks about something that was so essential to the Native American culture, and that is gifts of reciprocity. So that you don't get in the same form like what you can buy with the money that you paid or whatever. That comes back to you in another form. And that's the thing that you just touched on. And I want to thank you so much for putting that into a perspective, because it's so easy to go by our experience now and walk away, and we have things to do, cook dinner, whatever. But that to me will stay with me, and I want to thank you so much for giving me that gift of reciprocity.
There's 2 things I was going to think of. She helped bring it out, but it ended up when I started going to part of Grace Harbor College and to University of Washington. One of the things that I had first learned, and actually my brother Claude was one that really jumped into full force, was back in early 1970. Let's see, I graduated in 69, and Claude graduated in 1970. I was the height of the Native American movement, and it ended up, he went to Eastern Washington State College and jumped in with full force, and it ended up, he started learning on the, what we call the powwow drum, the big drum that you hear at powwows, and it ended up, relearning about who I am and being part of who we are as Native American people was being a drummer, and it ended up, I learned on the what we call the powwow drum to begin with.
Very large.
The big drum.
Yeah.
We call them big drum, but it ended up the thing that I was able to realize, and later on in my growing up in my years, and it ended up recalling back in my being part of the smokehouse longhouse people. We are the hand drummers. Our drumming in our ceremonies is by hand drum, and I'm a hand drum singer. And because I've been around the country, around the United States, but area, over in eastern Oregon, eastern part of also Washington, where the 7 drum people, and I was able to learn about their ceremonies and be part of them. And it ended up Two other things I could touch on is that not only being part of the smokehouse people, longhouse people, to be initiated as a person in the smokehouse, it's a 2-year commitment of going to ceremony to become a member of a smokehouse, longhouse person. And another avenue I have learned and been part of is have had 3 years of the teaching of the medicine wheel teachings and the medicine wheel colors and the teaching of the medicine wheel. And I'm going to only touch on it only for a little bit because I ended up as a point that you would have to talk to me only individually in is when vision questing. I was given a 1 year of teaching of becoming, going into a vision, doing a vision quest, and I had to have somebody that has done the vision quest before me and tell me how I'm supposed to do a vision quest, and I have to pick my place and pick what I want around where I'm going to be to do my vision quest, and it's a very personal ceremony also. And those are some of the several different avenues I have been part of in my path of knowing myself as a Native American person.
Mark, I think that's probably a good segue, because we will, at the lunch break, we'll have an opportunity to meet one-on-one with you around your table. I do want to have, yeah, oh, so.
Well, the other thing I'm gonna put up was Habu, and these are stories. And the university, I think it's the university, what do you call it? Yeah, the university library, university bookstore. That's what I remember them by, university bookstore. Used to publish this, and I don't know if you have to, but by Hilbert Toxshablu was my teacher of my language.
Yes. More to be learned about Vi in the weeks to come too. Thank you so much for this time, Mark.
Yeah.